He's like, guys, you work for it every day. But it seems to be like this one.
This is
It's not relevant. Talking about it. We don't recognize you. You're basically no mom, like, which I don't know. It's like, I was when I was a senior. Well, when I was a junior, I was a senior college. And then when I was a senior, I was like,
That's good enough.
There's too many secrets. I think mine's like watching the rain. But that's almost right in your turn.
Oh, I'm here. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
It feels like we're on our way to summer or something. It's all warm out there. I always have like reverse seasonal affective disorder. When it gets sunny, I'm like, this is gross, right?
Yeah.
I hate this weather. I wish it would rain and cold. I'm in the wrong part of the state. Another thought that it left me. I read all of your papers, all of your assignments, and graded them all. I even learned a few cool new things from some of you. Went to the sex shops. Like I didn't know what sounding was.
You know sounding ones?
I didn't. I mean,
I did.
thought it's not.
I'm
Not interested or don't know? Not curious?
I don't know.
So my scary little, it took me on a random like 25-minute journey down the rabbit hole on Google, so thank you for that. But no, I did not know about that, right? So learn something new. It doesn't affect my life in the slightest, right? So I definitely didn't know about it, but I learned some really interesting things. Thank you all for sharing. Look it up later if you want to know, right? I won't read it. It's a very dangerous practice. You know? I learned a lot about I graded all of your assignments. If you missed the deadline, you can still turn it in at any point for up to 50%. Okay, so if you missed it for some reason, please feel free to email it to me. You can still get those points, at least half of them. There's one more assignment. So if you didn't have time to do like one of the options you wanted, start planning for the next one. It's not until like the end of April. So you have lots of time, right? But a lot of you went to sex shops, which I think is great fun, right? Thank you for taking little journeys. And again, I love learning new things from that. Reminder, our second exam number 2, but it's Monday, right? It's exam number 1, right? We haven't had one yet. Let me erase that. Yes, you all missed the first exam. How dare you, right? I'm ready for it to be, see, I told you, it feels like summer. It's ready for it to be later in the semester. Exam number 1. So much better. Wednesday. Okay, so I won't see you Wednesday. Remember that I'm giving you the entire class time to take the exam. It's 75 minutes. But if you would rather sleep in and do other things, have a nice breakfast or lunch or whatever, you have all the way until 11:59 p.m. So just make sure you take it at some point that day. It's on Canvas. We obviously aren't meeting in person. And then don't forget the study guide on Canvas. Really, really helpful for you in preparing. Those of you who haven't taken a test with me before, remember if it's on the study guide, it will be on the test. Make sure you know those anatomy diagrams that are on there. You will be matching those to a list of terms. Are there any other questions about the exam? Anything that you're like nervous about, feeling clear about? Well, I know exams cause anxiety, but you get to use your notes in your book. So hopefully you feel good. People typically do pretty well. Like quite well, I would say, but definitely study and prepare. We will finish up male anatomy today, and we'll probably be done a little early. We don't have a ton left, but that's okay. We got a little ahead, which is fantastic. But we'll keep going with this. We'll wrap it up. But anything else about the test? Feeling okay? You'll get a score right away, as I mentioned before, just not the short answer questions, which I'll be grading throughout the day. All right. So we left off here with these cute little sperm that are up here, right? Like kind of talking about the life of a sperm cell. We spent a lot of time talking about the process of creating and maturing sperm and that whole process. A couple other topics that we have left here. Some concerns around sexual functioning and sexual health for men. And then, of course, we have that male equivalent of the documentary that I can't wait to bombard you with that music for in a little bit. But one of the biggest kind of concerns, we'll say, for men when it comes to sexual functioning typically relates to penis size. Okay, right? So that's one of the things that tends to come up the most as really defining like somebody's like worth, right? Oftentimes men feel very strongly about the size of their penis or the expectations around the size of their penis and might dictate their worth as lovers, their self-esteem a little bit. There's a lot of societal expectations and norms related to this, kind of like we see for women when it comes to breast size and breast appearance as well. So typically with men, like the average is right around 6 inches, technically about 5.6 inches when erect. Only about 15% of men have a penis size greater than 7 inches. But of course, that's what we see in pornography, right? Like in pornography, it's definitely not portraying the norms or like a typical male size. And a lot of people use pornography as the norm, which is completely unrealistic, not only in sexual response, but also like in size and appearance as well. Another thing that we talk a lot about is circumcision, whether to circumcise or not, right? And I have it up here, but when do we do this in our culture? When does this happen for a little one? Yeah. Right after birth, right? I remember, so I have all 3 daughters, right? All of my kids are girls. But one of my oldest, she was very modest all the way through like pregnancy. Every time we do an ultrasound, she'd curl in a ball. So we were like 90% sure it was a girl. And when she was born, the doctor hesitated by like 3 seconds. And in that 3 seconds, all I could think about was circumcision. I was like, we didn't talk about it, right? It was a girl, it didn't matter. But he was like, congratulations, it's a tick. And in my mind, I was all like, oh my gosh, what if it's a boy, right? We never talked about it. But this is by far the norm in our culture. The vast majority of young men are circumcised in our culture. And it happens, as I said, within the first like 48 hours. It's a very like short procedure. They take the baby, you can watch through a window if you want to. You can't be in the room because it is a surgical procedure. But they do what happens in this little picture here. They numb the penis with like a local anesthetic and they remove the foreskin surgically. Okay, now the baby doesn't feel anything except the little shot, but it does take a little bit of time to recover from, but it's a very like fast, quick procedure. 55 to 65% of newborn boys in our country are circumcised, right? And again, it's a choice that you typically make at that point, though it can be done later in life if you wanted to. Sometimes people who are uncircumcised will have this done as a teenager or an adult. It's just obviously a little bit longer of a procedure because you're dealing with more material, right? But for the most part, done very, very early. Some cultures do this as part of like a celebration. I went to a brisk as a celebration of one of my friends had twins and one was a boy, and I got to go to a party where we circumcised this little boy and got to eat penis cakes. It was very memorable, right? I'll never forget it. But usually this is done in the hospital. A lot of pros and cons of doing this. So obviously the biggest pro is normalcy and like hygiene. Much easier to clean a circumcised penis than it is an uncircumcised one. Because what happens is you can get bacteria that builds up right inside here. And even have a name for it, smegma, which sounds awful, right? But like there's this bacteria that can build up very easily inside like that area of the foreskin. And so it's much easier to keep a circumcised penis clean. So that's one huge like proponent of it. A lot of religious beliefs related to this. Again, it's the typical norm. So oftentimes it's desirable for that reason. But some of the cons, it's thought that it could be unnecessarily traumatic, right? Like an unnecessary injury or procedure. And that it could be depriving somebody of their choice. But so obviously you can't ask a newborn baby if they would prefer this or not. So maybe it's depriving them of their choice in the matter. It can be reversed, but it's not easy to do. Any comments, thoughts, questions? Maybe not something you've thought about yet, but if you have a little child that is a boy, you can do that. Any thoughts or comments or anything for here, for now? I forgot I had a little video related to penis size. I completely forgot. It's right here. Let me play it for you. It's from an old like comedy routine, from like a Jeff Foxworthy comedy clip where he talks a little bit about like concerns around penis size. It's short, but I'll play it for you. Forgot that it was there. Have like correlation things that people joke about, like the size of their hands. One is the distance between their finger and their thumb. So there's a huge study done at Stanford where they were trying to look at like correlates between like hand size and finger size and penis size, right? And none of it like held up, right? Very correlation versus causation. Like there was a little bit of a relationship there, but it wasn't necessarily causal, right? So what they found is that like the distance between somebody's like pointer finger and their thumb correlated to penis size, but not always, right? So there isn't really any way of like guessing or knowing when it comes to like feet or hands or whatever, kind of all over the place. So being much smaller than like 5 inches or much bigger than 7 inches, definitely outside of the norm. Like if you've taken statistics, you get the good old bell curve, right? So the norm in the middle, the average is about 5.6 inches. And so then you have the vast majority of people falling within here. So less than 4 inches or more than like 7 inches, pretty uncommon. Any other thoughts, comments, anything? Yeah.
That's kind of looking this after lessons ago. This is actually a thing that I never really learned about. So it's like going into that, and I was realizing that there's a different average depending on the country you're in.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me. What?
Yeah. Yeah. This is the average for the United States. You go to other countries, so typically like Asian countries where men tend to have a smaller build in general, not always, but sometimes, the average is smaller, right? And then you go to other countries and the average is a little larger, right? I'm not sure what the biggest, like, somebody should look it up, what country has like the biggest and smallest, right? Like it'd be interesting to know, but yeah, it varies from culture to culture, right? And place to place, right? Just the norms. This is for here, but it could be very different somewhere else. Not by a ton, but like I think if I remember correctly, it was closer to like 5.1 or 5.2 instead of 5.6 in like several Asian countries. Yeah, right. Depending on the country. Yeah. Things that are important to know, right? When you're planning your vacations. Where am I going? Did anyone look it up? Right. If you look at, yeah, what is it?
Top 5 are Sudan, Congo, Ecuador, and Ghana and Nigeria.
So Africa, African countries, what are the bottom 5? Let's find out.
Sorry to these people. Thailand, North Korea, Cambodia, Nepal, and Myanmar.
Right, yeah, so interesting, right? And that's kind of like what I have heard pretty consistently, but that's wild, like the different parts of the world, different builds, different like sizes would correlate to this as well, right? Interesting things to take away. Okay, so a couple other things here. Here we go. Some like health concern related stuff. Did I hit record? There we go. Urology is the specialist for men. Men. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see him back.
The average height for a dude around the whole amount of times was 5'6".
Uh-huh.
Now I think it's like 5'9" or 5'10".
Yeah.
Is that at all correlated with
Penis size?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's tricky is so correlation does not equal causation, right? So there might be a little bit of a correlation there over time that as people have gotten taller, like I mean, logically, like if people are getting taller and bigger, their anatomy probably correlates a little bit with that, but not always. Again, that huge study that was done at Stanford showed that like physical height and size doesn't always like equate to like penis size. But if you look at the build of people across different countries, it kind of does. So yes and no, right? It would logically make sense that as people get a little bit bigger, that would equate to all of their anatomy, but not always. And that's such the tricky thing about statistics, right? Is that correlation doesn't necessarily mean that they cause each other, but there might be a decent connection between them, right? Kind of an unsatisfying answer, but probably a little bit, but hard to say. So men typically go to their primary doctor for their reproductive concerns, or they could go to a urologist. Now, urologists see men and women. They see all sexes, right? They deal with kind of the urinary tract and urinary tract concerns and diseases for both or all sexes. But typically, if a man is having a lot of like specific concerns, they might go to a urologist for a little bit more like detailed attention, but or it could just be their primary doctor. And just like with girls and women, this starts from a young age. Every time that a young boy goes to the doctor, they will do like regular checks, right? To make sure that everything looks correct, is developing correctly, just like they do with young girls. Couple of conditions that are really common for men: priapism, prostatitis, right? Penile and testicular cancer, prostate cancer. Cancer is unfortunately common among anyone, right? And both sexes here that we're talking about. But priapism, where erections are long lasting and painful, right? So sometimes men will experience an erection that is not related to desire. Okay, so it has nothing to do with like arousal or excitement, and it can be quite painful, and sometimes it won't go away. And one of the methods for getting rid of this is draining the blood out of the penis, which can be very difficult and painful to do. But priapism is a condition that can happen. Different types of cancer, the prostate becoming enlarged due to an infection, urinary tract infections, of course, just like with women. And then prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer among men. Second leading cause of death after lung cancer. So just like for women who should be going in regularly, young men should be going in and being checked as well. You know, typically, once you are like in your teen years and becoming sexually active, they will do various checks, right? Checking your testicles, checking your prostate, very part of a regular screening for men. Any thoughts or comments or questions? Questions here? Great. You ready for some awful music? Yeah. I got one thumbs up. That's all I need in life, right? One thumbs up. And then I have the diagram here, which I gave you in the study guide. Be able to label these different structures on the exam. But what I want to show you, I love that document women, breast size and breast appearance and like the pressure around that. They made a male equivalent. It's just as dated in the sense of like 2001. I wish they would remake them, but they have not. Same awful music or bad music, great music, whatever, however you felt about the music. I do feel like there's a little bit of a maturity difference between this one and the other one, but I still think it shows a great amount of like vulnerability. They go over some slang. They talk about concerns around like penis functioning, which I think is very vulnerable and great. So I'm going to show you about the first like 12 minutes or so of it, if it will let me. It locked me out, but hopefully I can get it to work here. Go. This. So you don't need to take notes or anything.